Welcome you to this DGFirst Management Committee. Do we have any apologies today, Claire?
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from the leader, Ivor Hislop, today. Are any members able to advise of Colin Wiper or Councillor Yen?
I think Councillor Wiper has just been through operations, I suspect. I don't know about Councillor Yen. Oh, is he? Oh, good. Oh, well, he'll maybe be here. Excellent. We'll wait and see. With that, then, we'll also have Mr. Barker's apologies as well, I think, as Director.
Thank you. I've just been advised that Councillor Yen has given their apologies.
I'd just like to welcome, Mr. Barker's not here today, but I'd just like to welcome Mr. Dempster, who's going to take his shoes and deal with our committee. Do we have any declarations of interest? In that case, could we go to the minute of the meeting of the 23rd of April? I was asked by members why we had to have such a lot of such a volume of paperwork on the minute with regard to business plan, but I'm led to believe that is a governance thing. It's got to be there. Is that right?
Yes, Chair. It's for full correction and comment into the minutes. We will discuss the revised business plan later
on. In that case, we go on to item 4, which is the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report for 2012 to 13 for the period ended December 31st, 2012. This is an outrun monitoring report for the financial year, and it's good that the department has been reporting at previous managed committees that they had anticipated that the department would break even for the year. However, as you will all be aware, the winter returned with some severity in March, and that has left us with an overall underspend of 162,000. Overspend, I mean, sorry, of 160,000. Had that snow not occurred, roads would have broken even. And I think perhaps we'll just find out how the cost of that will be implicating into DGFirst from you, Mr. Dempster, in a minute, if we could. There is also the waste collection service, which is an overspend, and that was the budget pressure and shouldn't get any worse in the new financial year. I'm imagining that is the route review that caused that, which was the whole point of having a route review, so it showed up some costs that weren't expected. That should not be recurring in the year 13-14. So I think if we could just deal with those two items for us, that would be very useful. And anything else you want to add to the report?
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the winter operations, as members will know, the winter that came to us in March was severe, and as a result, we did encounter an overspend in our winter operations. This has been offset in part by the use of the severe winter emergency fund, the £500,000 that is made available centrally from the council to allow us to deal with some of the issues. As the Chair rightly says, had this winter not been so severe, it would have been anticipated that we would have, through our revenue allocation, broken even with the budgets and would have not been in an overspend position. However, I think considering the severity of winter and the issues that we had to deal with, we are in a position of reporting actually a better position financially because of the use of the reserves. So we're happy to take any questions that members may have on the winter operations. With regards to the waste collection, again, Chair is correct. We did have, as you will all be aware, some operational challenges as part of the route review, which resulted in us having encountered some additional costs that were not foreseen during that process, having to double up on weekend working to catch up with the routes, but that's clearly anticipated not to be the case in the new financial year. So again, happy to take any questions from the members.
Just before I open it up, can I just ask about the Severe Weather Emergency Fund? You'll notice in the recommendations that we are suggesting to Policy and Resources that they reinstate that. Is that not always there? Is it not just a recurring thing that if we use it, we use it, and if we don't, we don't? I mean, I would have thought Policy and Resources always had that in place. Is that?
It is a sum of money that is made available to us, and we require permission to draw down. It's not directly there for DGFirst just automatically to access. And the fact that we used it this year, we have to seek that committee's permission to reinstate the funds that have been utilised this current winter.
Just on the overspend that has caused, there was government money that should become available. How are we doing with that?
As members will know, the submission with regards to the Belwyn claim will go in centrally from the council. That bid will be somewhere in the region of some £2 million, and that has been coordinated by colleagues in planning and environment. The threshold with regards to Belwyn is 775,000, so the council has to find that first before any additional funding. So in simple terms, it's like your excess policy on a person's individual insurance. That is the threshold that we have to manage ourselves. And that bid is being progressed just now, Chair, and will be being submitted.
Councillor Ferguson?
Thanks, Chair. This is a contingency fund. I appreciate you only draw down in an emergency with authorisation. So it's a twofold thing. How long has the figure been 500,000? And given the evidence you've got from last year, or this year, this spring, is it a realistic figure to have as a contingency, or would you be suggesting from the evidence you have now that that figure is no longer the right figure and we need to take this back to Policy and Resources?
It's a figure as a figure, and it's we can have severe winters that we would not exceed that figure. The moving of high volumes of snow is very expensive. You can have a very severe winter where we may have to utilise some of this money in a frost situation, and that can, on the face of it, be equally severe, but would not exceed that 500,000. It's a fair and sensible sum of money to have in the bank to allow us to deal with things. So I think you could set all sorts of figures, but I think it's a competent figure to have there, and I think it's appropriate, and it has been there for numerous years.
I'll take your advice, Ronnie. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
Just on item 3.7 on page 44, waste collection. I note you're saying that work is currently being progressed to address the pressures and to ensure the waste collection budget is sustainable. Can you give us some detail on what work is being progressed?
Councillor, later on the committee there is a presentation on zero waste. Obviously, the current waste collection service, we have implemented a route review to maximise some savings. That did have some challenges through last year, as you are all well aware. Those have been fixed, and we are working with the crews and the management within neighbourhood services to ensure that any little anomalies that come along until the implementation of zero waste are managed through appropriately and correctly. So what is going on in the background is constant dialogue with the crews, the men, to ensure that the service continues without any hiccups and avoids any of the disruption that the residents of Dumfries and Galloway suffered during the the implementation of the first route review.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Dempster, the report says that obviously there's an additional vehicle that will continue, will it, for this financial year? Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
Just final point is you've mentioned that there is a presentation on zero waste, and does that entail the new proposed collection system? Thank you for that.
Yes.
The operational update, which is coming at the end of the meeting, I did ask for that to come along because it is obviously going to be implemented across the region from January. And I thought it was important that we had Mr. Marshall here just to give us an update on where we are with it. Now, any other questions on this report? Councillor Wiper?
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for being late.
No, good to see you.
Winter resilience, I know we had a really severe spell in March. I've had quite a few emails back and forward from a local farmer, I don't know if you're aware of them, I've been copied into them at all, about the clearing of small farm roads. Now, his point is that he realises the council have got approved contractors who you go to when you need additional work done. But in severe weather, and I know that was really a severe month, would it be possible to look at having local farmers who have snow moving equipment, tractors or whatever, as a backup to that, without having to go through a whole rigmarole of putting in, tenders, estimates, whatever? Because he was saying it would actually be more cost efficient if people who were just wanting to clear U roads or whatever were actually approved by the council in severe weather, that they could be brought on board to give a hand.
We can certainly look at that, Councillor. We do have a process of working with the farming community to have farmers available to assist us in these circumstances. One of the reasons why we just don't go for a carte blanche, go out, do it, is that there are insurance issues. There are in making sure that they know what they're doing, that any damage that occurs, that there is liability insurances, and it's protecting the council as well with all these processes. Happy to look at any specific requests that you've received and ensure the roads team will discuss with the farmer. We do keep a pool of the farmers that are out there. Some are given equipment, others have appropriate equipment themselves. So there are several factors, and it's not just saying, yes, go and do it, but we build in various elements to ensure that they're protected as much as we're protected in doing these activities. But happy to look at it with you.
Well, maybe come back to you on that. I mean, what I think they're looking for is a more sort of relaxed approach to it. So if the insurances and etc. were in place, that maybe it could be looked at bringing more people on board.
Thanks for that. No, I agree with on the farming side. How is it structured? If someone is in the pool, are they paid a retainer, or are they paid for what they do, or how does it work?
There are no retainers paid. Any farmer who wishes to be on the list of available resource to clear snow or help us out basically shows us their insurance, their indemnities, tells us what plant and equipment that they have, and in conditions of severe snow or other need, we can call upon them and they help us out. So we have a standard. It's tying in with other authorities, the format that they have used across Scotland that ensures that what we are getting is appropriate for on the roads within Dumfries and Galloway, and not putting anyone at risk and not putting the farmer in a position that they don't want to find themselves in with causing damage to vehicles, etc. So there is a standard pro forma that we go through, we put them on record, and we call upon them as we need them.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Chair. It's just at 3.9, one old hobby horse here again. I see there's an underspend in the care and support services budget. So the question I'm kind of asking here, has this been reported back to the commissioners, and has the commission from social work been reviewed, or is it being reviewed?
Glad, I think that would be your department.
Yep. The answer to both questions is yes and yes. Okay.
Thought it might be Kate. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor
Chair. It's extremely difficult for you when I'm sitting to the side. I know. Anyway, but what I was going to raise was the Bellwyn bid. Now, we're talking in terms of, I take it, the $500,000 that we have as reserve goes against the government's 775, which would therefore leave us, hopefully, a claim coming in of $250,000. That therefore really puts us in a situation of surplus rather than a deficit overspend. Would that be correct?
Chair, no, I think the element of the reserve doesn't account into the Bellwyn. I think that's correct, Caroline.
So any Bellwyn monies that come forward goes into the corporate? Right, okay.
Right. No further questions. Could we go to the recommendations? At 2.1, which is to note that we've exceeded the budget available by 162,000. Agree that? And note that, given the reasons, it is recommended to the Policy and Resource Committee that the costs are met from the corporate resources, and additionally that the Severe Weather Emergency Fund of 500,000 is reinstated. We have to do that. Yeah? Good. Thank you. That takes us on to trading operations at item 5. And as with the last report, it should be noted that this is an outrun monitoring position report for DGFirst trading operation for the financial year 2012 to 13. It's a good report, and it's good to see that the trading operations have returned a surplus of £52,599. I think a couple of sections are worth noting. Vehicle maintenance, which has been a subject to previous discussion at this committee, has had a rigorous overhaul and a review, and as a result returned a profit ahead of schedule. This was a 2-year programme, but in fact it's come in better than expected in 1 year, which has to be commended. And also the building services have had a good trading year and has returned a surplus on that as well. So perhaps you'd just like to take us through those two and bring anything else in that you'd like to Mr. Dempster.
Thank you, Chair. And I agree this is a very good report regards to the trading operations for DGFirst. Certainly picking up on the two points that you raised with regards to vehicle maintenance and building services. Vehicle maintenance, as you quite rightly say, had been subject to scrutiny through this committee, and quite rightly so, on its operational basis and its viability. Following that, a fairly extensive review was put in place to ensure the service traded and operated in a more efficient and commercially ethos. And this is now really starting to bear fruits. We obviously have been through some of the challenges with bringing staff back on board through the TUPE transfer from Fraken. And some of these issues are still to be finalised, but we've certainly got through the major difficulties, and we're now in a position where the workshops are, I would say, 99% of the way through, structured up in a more commercially based setup, and are producing the goods to the council and to its other clients that it services and works for. So all credit to the management and the mechanics and the foremen there within these services. Building services, again a very good trading year, and very good in connection with Lorburn Housing. We continue to have exceptionally good performance with them, and we're building on that success, and we have again won another contract, retained the maintenance with Irving Housing. So all these elements, in conjunction with the works that we have tendered for with regards to school works, have all produced a business that is certainly heading in the right direction. So again, members happy to take any questions you may have on the service.
Mr. Dryburgh?
Thanks, thanks very much, Chair. Two questions, really. I'm looking at the roads maintenance side of things with the deficit of 15,200. And the question on that is, obviously, we mentioned the bad winter there before, and there were obviously some road defects because of that particular winter thing. When does the payment for that from the formula that we talked about earlier on stop, and when do we actually go into normal road maintenance for that particular thing? The other thing is actually on the business trading operations itself. I mean, looking at some of these opportunities that are there with Lorburn, and are we looking at any other forms of contracts that we can actually get and actually bring money into the council? Because, I mean, obviously, one of the things we're going to have over the next few years is the budgets that are going to be cut, and we need to make as much money as possible to try and reduce the effect of those budget cuts in the future.
Yes, I think the answer, if you take your second point first, I think looking at opportunities is something that, particularly through my service, we're doing on a daily basis, whether that be for housing, Lorburn housing, seeing what opportunities exist within existing partnership and working arrangements. All these things, constantly trying to find new avenues that we can bring income into the council. There are numerous other ones that we can and will bring to members as potential options in the future, whether that be, as we previously said in the vehicle maintenance reports that came to this committee, one of the options is the MOT testing and bringing that in, and that's nationally recognised local authorities to do that because they are solely interested in vehicles on the road are fit and safe. They're not interested in it's hazard. And so the simple answer is yes. If there's an opportunity that is appropriate, that falls within the remit, this committee council has set us on a path of trading operations. With regards to the road maintenance and the small deficit, the winter operations, as soon as winter finishes, they're back onto normal activity. So your patching, potholing, that as soon as the winter actions have been dealt with, the day after, we're back onto repairing roads.
So obviously during that operation in March, there was a lot of work done on roads and things like that, where there would have been some maintenance issues with regards to the roads and carriageways. Now obviously there's going to be a cost to repairing them, and what you're saying is that could potentially be an overspend in the future because of the work that's been done.
Any exceptional damage that has been identified will be reported back to our Commissioner and he advised that this is exceptional damage that has occurred due to these budgets that we operate at are primarily for the management of additional works we have to do.
Just on a sugary nail there, you mentioned patching and potholing. How are our first time permits? Because I think it was brought to my attention earlier this morning that there's still a bit of patching.
The process is progressing across the region. There will be on some occasions that we have to necessitate and use temporary patching material because of the severity of any whole emergency hold category 1 defects. I can certainly look at anyone's chair that have been brought to your attention to find out the reason behind it. But the process is developing. It's starting to bear fruit across the region. So yeah, we're on the right track.
Sorry, can I just pick up on that as well? And just, I brought it up with the chair this morning. Is it seemed to be going around Montfrey and places like that yesterday, and going up the Moffat Road. There seemed to be an awful lot of what we might describe as whack and pack. I haven't got statistics, but I seem to think that it's happening more often, and I appreciate that it is for emergency potholes. But what I'm really asking is, when are we going to be sort of doing first-time repair on all potholes?
Chair, I think I'll certainly have the roads team look into the area up and around Wamfrey, but the base principle is that all of our patching that we're endeavouring to do now should be on the basis of first-time permanent, unless it is a Cat 1 where it is a life-threatening patch that we have to go in there, do something with some temporary material, but that then is scheduled back in, that patch would be then followed up and repaired. And from a personal experience, having had a wheel and tyre destroyed, I can confirm that the hole was filled in temporarily and then has then been permanently reinstated. So that is the process my colleagues in the road service are working to. But I'll certainly look at those ones for the council.
So just going back, when will we see all potholes first-time permanent?
I don't think, to be fair, you can ever have all potholes done like that, because I think some are emergencies and they have to be filled in on a temporary basis until they can be properly repaired, and that's always been the case. But for everyday potholes, they are now all going to be, at this moment, all being done as a first permanent. Councillor Ferguson?
Thanks, Chair. Again, we're looking at the old favourites here for trading operations. I'm kind of looking at Kate here probably. Have we made some inroads into the new self-directed support available to home care as a commission, as a separate piece of business as opposed to the commission from social work? Because the individuals themselves could be buying their own care, and increasing numbers are actually starting to go down that route. And I'm just actually seeing an opportunity here to use your existing staff and create income at the same time and provide a service for others who are not coming to you through the social work route.
At the moment, Councillor, I haven't had any in-depth discussion with commissioning or social work colleagues who are driving that agenda forward at the moment. But it is on the to-do list, if you like, that discussion has to take place, because you see we do have a big resource out there that could be utilised.
No doubt we'll discuss it somewhere else.
Councillor Martin?
Thanks, Chair. Just back to the pothole issue, like Councillor Diggle, I seen a road in my ward that's down for a resurfacing, but yesterday they were actually patching parts of the road. And some of the patching was being done as a permanent issue, and other smaller potholes was just as you go along the whack and pack. I don't know if these are just temporary measures. I wouldn't think the permanent one is, but as I say, the whack and pack, this road is down to be resurfaced. I don't know if it's just stretches of road to be resurfaced, but yesterday there was some permanent repairs done and there were some just the whack and pack. So as I say, I'll be looking with interest to see if the road has got to be resurfaced or if that is the job finished yesterday. Because if that was the job yesterday, it certainly wasn't very satisfactory.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. With regard to the roads and the potholes, could Mr Dempster confirm whether you now have all the equipment that was on order? I know that some of the regions have them installed now, but I mean that has been part of the delay for some of the works being carried out. We know Annandale, Eskdale, we had a visit there and the hot box and such is installed there, but is that throughout the region now? And secondly, on the vehicle maintenance side, at one of our last meetings, you were in discussions with the new Scottish Fire Service as to the, the servicing of the fire tenders. Can you confirm whether that has now been signed up or whether you're still in discussions? Because that will have an effect on your actual figures here as well.
Chair, to the best of my knowledge, as we sit here this morning, I have not heard that we have not received all the equipment. So I know the chippers, rollers, and all the other part and bits and pieces have been through workshops. So to the best of my knowledge, but I'll certainly will check with the roads team if there are any items that have not yet been delivered. I'll gladly advise members on which ones those are. With regards to the Fire and Rescue Service, we are still waiting to have the SLA, Service Level Agreement, signed by the Fire Authority. We are doing maintenance for them since day one of the authority. We're doing emergency breakdowns, we're doing ad hoc repairs, and we are actively pursuing the new commission to get these signed off as soon as possible and hopefully have the appliances down here being maintained in workshops.
And just could you confirm, would that be for the vehicle maintenance, would that be a single year contract or a 3-year contract?
The terms of reference that we have proposed within the contracts, it would be a subject to a yearly review with an option of either party being able to step away from the contract for whatever reason, subject to a minimum of 6 months' notice. So that's the legal term. It's year by year. I know they are talking this potentially, then we'll package it up in a different way some years ahead, but I think that is a period of time we've got to review.
Councillor Wood?
Just coming back on the point that Councillor Driver was making about looking to try and increase revenue from other outsourcing. I understand that at present we have a 3% restriction on what we are allowed to do with regards to outsourcing. Is that something that we need to look at as a council with regards to increasing that?
It'll be insourcing rather than outsourcing.
As members will be aware, we have previously presented to this committee our sort of competitiveness strategy, and it may be something that members would like us to have a look at again with regards to opportunities. So we would, again, would be happy to look at that if that is the member's wish.
Mr. Driver?
Chair, I think that would be a good idea, and I think it might be a good idea to get it back before we start the sort of budget setting process later on in the year, when we're going to have a real good look at the budget side of things. So if there's potential to have it before, say, November, then that would be a good idea.
Just on that, Caroline will help with our activity-based budgeting. Will that be coming to the August committee?
I would assume so, given that it is in the process of being finalised now. The August committee.
Because I'm led to believe that we have now got a Mr. Rooney who is come into the department to help with the having a view of how the accounts are put before us. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. So perhaps it would be good to have him at a briefing on the financial arrangements in the DGFirst had the activity-based budgeting here in August, in order that that would help us to understand budgets and accounts, have a fresh somebody looking at them in a fresh way, see if he's seen any opportunities whereby we can increase our activities, if you like, outward, and also that would perhaps allow us a more informed way of scrutinising for financial management, which is part of this committee's delegated powers. So could we have that? Could we have this Rooney here, either as a part of the activity-based budgeting or as a update at next meeting? I think it would be good for us as a committee to say what we want to get from the accounts. Councillor Ferguson?
Thanks, Chair. I actually totally agree with what you've just asked for there. But I would actually maybe suggest that complexity of the commissioning process and the different financial regimes that are in this department. In other departments, we've actually had an informal seminar, which is a less formal setting, where we're actually a free and frank discussion with the appropriate officers, the ones who are actually dealing with it on a daily basis. And I think that's been very beneficial in other departments, and I would suggest that we should actually do the same here, and take it out with the formal committee setting into a less formal seminar setting.
I think that would be a good idea. So we could do the activity-based budgeting, Mr. Rooney here to help us with that, but then a sort of workshopping seminar, perhaps afterwards, with bodies. So so we get a better understanding of what we're actually doing, how we do it. Councillor Driver.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that, and perhaps the best place to do that would be up at Cargan Tower itself, just to make sure if we need to ask any questions, the appropriate people are already there.
A good idea. So, Mr. Dempsey, can you, Bill is not here, so can you take that forward for us and put that in place? That would be good. So that could be part of the recommendation, Claire, that would be good. And no other questions. If we could look at the recommendation, which is just were to note the trading operation returned a surplus of £52,600 in the financial year 2012-13, plus the other recommendation about. You got that, Claire?
Yes, I've got that, noting the ABB back in August and a seminar workshop for around the same time.
That we have Mr. Rooney here.
Yes.
I think that's really important if we've got a new person in there. Quite interesting. Now we move on to item 6, which is the Director's end of year assessment of DGFirst business plan performance. I think before we start, there's one here that comes pinging out at 0% of doing anything, which is the development plan. Well, have you all got the coloured ones? Did you get them with your papers? No? Right. It's much easier to follow. Anybody want coloured ones? You deal with it. You got one? Yeah. Good. So I think just before we start, it is the one that has departmental workforce plan, which is project progress 0%. I think we'll deal with that one first, and then we'll work backwards because that was the one that came out. On page 71 of the exception report, if you want.
Thank you, Chair. I think the commentary within the exception report that we have there, in some respects, sums it up. I think this was one that we had planned to start in November, and clear with a lot of the other elements of reshaping, re-engineering of the DGFirst service. I think in simple terms, probably tried to bite in one go. And this was meant to be completed through the winter period, and has been through a process of changing the management arrangements with the roads and services, and all these elements link into this workforce plan. We now have some clarity. We've cleared away some of the activities we have been working our way through. It's not an excuse, but it's something I think we were overly eager to produce this. I think we've learned that the adage of what will run perhaps more realistic. So I think to the committee is our intention now. We have put in place staff to work in progress through this matter, and this will come back scrutiny to this committee for members, but we are in the process of delivering this.
So it has started, it just hasn't been completed, but you would. So when would you expect a completed date? You know, it was due to be completed 31st of March. He obviously failed. So what's in place now?
I think again we will be reporting back to the committee advising the date. It will be in a similar time span of number of months.
Good. With regards to these, I mean, there's a lot on track, obviously, which is excellent. I think what was suggested was that some of the targets were, because it was a new thing, they were kind of set too low. I don't know whether we revisit that and reset them, or whether, you know, because we've done well in a lot of things, which is excellent, but that's easy if you set the target too low. Is this your department? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks for that. Yeah, as you said, some of the indicators last year were new in the business plan, but this year, as part of the refresh of the business plan, we've reviewed the targets and we've introduced them into the new business plan forward.
Thanks, Chair. We also have the issue of sickness and absence again. And I'm actually wondering if there's a value here in separating out the sickness absence from those staff who are prevented from going back to work because of statutory situations, because it actually doesn't give a fair reflection on the department, because you're doing it because, for example, sickness or whatever it is, if they're working in schools or the older folk. Is it a big task, kind of looking at Jamie here, is it a big task to separate them out? So we've actually got a fair idea just how many staff we're talking about here are in that sort of enforced elongated absence period rather than just normal, lucky better words, normal sickness.
I think that's a very good point, because I think, you know, with home care, obviously, and school meals, called authorised absence or something, which is longer than you'd expect if it was somebody who was just doing nothing. So would that be possible to do? I know what they say about statistics, you can get them to say anything you want, but it's better to have a more accurate, because this is always going to be a problem for us, I think.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a good point to make. I think both on the care side and with the school catering, the meals, there is a mandatory period that staff can't return to work, and also even in an outside working environment as well. I think we'll have to take that into consideration, where staff have the flu or whatever and go working outdoors is pretty harsh. So yeah, basic answer is yes, we can look at statistics behind that, look at profile of what staff and how long they've been off and what job title they have, so we can bring something back, get a percentage.
So if you look at, I'm looking at page 60 there, which is, and it gives you there, you know, the average days of loss per other local government projects. I mean, what would you put in there? Would you, how would you word it? What would happen?
Yeah,
Chair.
Sorry.
Chair, I think this is one that we're working through with our colleagues in HR to get the right terminology so that statistical information is correct. You may have your percentage of absence, you may have all absent authorised due to be linking into home care or preparation, whatever else. There's some terminology that we have to sort out to ensure that we get the right script. We're doing that.
Councillor Driver?
Thanks, Chair. And I agree that we have to separate the sort of schools and home care side of things away from the absences. I'm not sure I would ask anybody who had flu to come back to work anyway if they were working outside, so I'm certainly wouldn't agree with that particular part of it. I think the manual side of things as well, when you look at DGFirst, is going to have some types of injuries and things like that where you would expect manual handling and all that type of thing comes into that particular thing. I'm just wondering what benefit we're actually getting out of this in the actual delivery plan. Or should it be appropriate to take this out the business plan and put it into the HR plan of managing absences? Because I can't see a benefit of this being in the business plan other than we know how many days people have been off sick. Well, if you've got a business plan and you're delivering on that, and we've seen already that there's been an underspend and a surplus, all that type of thing, what benefit are we actually getting out of this? Now, I know we'll have to manage sickness absence through our managed sickness absence policy through the HR process. So I'm not sure what we're actually getting benefit-wise as a committee from this particular thing, other than saying we're above the target. If you add on, for instance, 2 or 3 days that people are in schools when they've got to come back, from a sickness absence where they can't actually work, and that's 2 or 3 days you can take off of that, or is it really because you're putting your finger in the air and saying which way is the wind blowing? So I'm not seeing a benefit from this actually being in the business plan, other than it's 14.3 days per average per employee. Well, it could be that somebody's off with cancer for a year, and that's just one person who ski-whiffs the whole thing. So is there a benefit of actually being there, or should we have it in a different report that shows us how we're managing the sickness absence?
Chair, we use this as a management tool to allow us to look at what our absence is across our service. Behind all this, we are a management team, regular basis, monthly basis, we are reviewing the types of absence, the type of issues that are there, whether it's the Friday-Monday syndrome, it's musculoskeletal, whether it's colds and flus, whatever, there's a pattern, we monitor all that. And I think there is a valued worth of having this information within our plan. It shows that we are being proactive in the management of absence within the service. Have it as a global one, I think, dilutes the ability to monitor year on year where they are. Parts and elements that we do on a daily basis, back to work interviews, why did you know, a pattern of musculoskeletal injuries, changes of working practices, having equipment, new system, all that goes to give a picture. And I think it's worthy of having this type of information to members within the business plan, so you can actually year on year overall performance of management of a frontline service that has so many people manual and other. So I can understand what you're saying, but I think there is more worth to have it there with all
the mainly because we never had the chance after you started talking about the page 71. You just went straight on to other pages after that with regards to the exception reports on the development plan for the workforce. I think the way that the department's actually doing this is actually right. You have to get the management arrangements in place first before you actually get the structure below that actually set out. And we need to, I think, look as a committee as to what the due date should actually be for bringing that department workforce plan forward. Now, looking at today's date being June, and this was supposed to take 6 months to organise. I think if the management arrangement for delivering the change programme is completed by, say, November, because you look as though you're 60% of the way through there at the moment, which is the one above, the departmental workforce plan should actually fall down from that. The structure should actually fall down from that. So if we were to get a report back in, say, January of where you are with this, then that would be a good thing, I think.
Can you do that? Yep.
Yeah, that's fine, Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. With reference the indicator on the member inquiry system, page 61 in the papers, it's below target there. Going on to the exception report on that, the reasons given is that when it was introduced, the DGFirst received an exceptionally high volume of inquiries and could not react to that. Now, first of all, as this was a new system being put out to all councillors at the time, surely should have expected a high input of inquiries into that initially, because we were told at the outset that all sort of inquiries were to come through this new system being put forward to councillors. And therefore, DGFirst, I appreciate they're only part of the system, but you could imagine that most of the inquiries would be coming into that section. But the response there that you're putting in a locally based handler to deal with some of the calls and therefore transfer them, filter them through, I suppose, and transfer them out. Is that not just a way of buying some time really on that? Because the response you get when you put the inquiry in, if it goes to the local area administrator in your particular area, they come back to you to say that your inquiry has been logged and it will be handled by X, Y, and Z. And that's possibly just a way of extending the time that DGFirst has to come back with you on that. So I'm not so sure that that's a satisfactory way of dealing with this. Because there is a lot of inquiries that will be put through to DGFirst, and I appreciate that a lot of them may be on pothole inquiries which should go through the lagging system, but we were not informed of that at the time that this new system was set up. So I would imagine DGFirst will still be getting a lot of inquiries put through member inquiry system, put through as potholes, etc., instead of through the lagging system, which takes time for a member of staff to log it onto that system from there. So I appreciate that side of it, but I just wonder sort of how the responses to this is, and if you have, apart from just a local-based handler dealing with it, is there any other responses that you have to make sure that these inquiries are dealt with?
I'll ask James to give a comment. He put the system in place, but I think in relation to base scoring, at the start we were inundated with a new process and the type of service that we have, whether that's pothole, sign, grounds maintenance, parks, whatever else. There were so many of these things came in at the start. It was, for the people that were dealing with it, it was meltdown. And we've looked at this, and things are improving. And James and his team have certainly looked at the process to not to buy time, but to actually improve and enhance the service that members ask for. Manner. So I'll let James say his piece, but that's the process. So it shouldn't be seen as we're trying to offset the process by buying time so that it allow us to do things. We're putting it in place to enhance and improve the service by having local people, local contacts, so the person that says not having to chase all the time. One's in the local level, information that's required. They will feed back.
Yeah, just on the back of what Ronnie was saying there, and I think you touched on it, Councillor Peacock, was the lagging as well. You know, we currently have lagging and respond dealing with inquiries at local level. First point of contact, we will be able to close off some of the inquiries through looking at lagging, through looking at the repairs that have already been put through there, and it gives you an answer in a better time scale. We won't extend the protocol. The protocol's there that we must adhere to, the time scales, and that will continue.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on the point that Archie was talking about the way the indicator on the number of days absence is presented. And I'm wondering whether there's any merit in, and at the moment on the face of it, we're saying that on average people are taking just under 3 weeks a year off. I'm wondering whether it's worth splitting, any merit in splitting that into, say, long-term recurring stuff and short-term non-recurring. It's an idea.
Chair, I think it's a very valid point, and we'll look at it as part of this process that we are doing with our colleagues in HR with regards to what is authorised. If it's long-term, taking on what the driver said, perhaps you may have a member of your staff that is off long-term due to cancer or operations or something like that. I think that's the kind of detail that we want. Perhaps is more meaningful to members.
Right, I think we should look at exception reports as on page 63. We've sort of dealt with the first one, which is sickness absence, and I think we've done the second one as well, that's related. The other one, the next one, which is the percentage of staff who have completed an annual performance development review. Now, this was a terrible one last time we had it with only 3%. I have to say it's done really well this time. It's not up to target, which is 100%, quite right, but we are at 81. So you are presumably assuming to get to 100.
Chair, we would endeavour to get as close to 100% as possible. The numbers involved here, 81%. Percent is a percent, but if you take that in the context of the 1,800 odd employees within our organisation, first, that's about 1,500 people have had a PDR. I think that in itself is a remarkable achievement that staff, managers, supervisory staff have managed to do that and spent the time with the rest of the staff to come forward with the annual performance development review with them. Whether we actually get to 100% because of the nature of some of our staff, workers, etc. But it is our endeavour to increase that percentage as close to as we possibly can.
Thanks, yeah, it's on that particular point. When you look at the staff right across DGFirst, they all work different hours, and some of them have actually got 0 hours contracts as well for home care and things like that. So to be honest, 100% for that particular target is probably unreachable. So we should be looking to try and get that a high percentage of the percentage of annual reviews, because it is one way of actually improving performance of staff as well. We should be looking at probably 85 to 90% of that particular being a target rather than 100%. We know that when you look at APSI and people like that and HR magazines, that hardly anybody reaches 100% unless they're a small organisation stuck in an office block. These guys are all over the place in Dumfries and Galloway, and they might be called away to do an emergency repair on a road when they're going to actually have their APR. So it's not the fault of management, it's the fault of the process or the system that's actually there. So you should be looking at perhaps an 85 to 90% target on that particular thing, although the staff annual reviews, I'll put the teeth in, are actually a good thing to improve staff performance as well.
So, James, are you looking at this one, and would you suggest that perhaps we did lower the target? 100% is, if it's not reachable, what's the point? You're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Chair. Take the points on board that maybe is unrealistic to achieve 100%, and 85, 90% is something we should look at.
Chair, again, we don't want to set ourselves up to fall. I think as PDRs and PDRs, at least if we can get as close to that 100% mark, it means that managers, supervisors, line managers have at least spoken to all the staff regardless whether they're on a 2-hour contract right through to full-time staff. They're not being missed off the scheme, and they're not forgotten about. It comes down to having the communication across the system can be seen as an organisation to interface with all our staff right down to all levels. So 95%, happy to do that, but it would be
Thanks. I know exactly where Archie's coming from here, but as somebody who negotiated and lobbied that every single member of staff should be treated exactly the same, this was partly pressure from the workforce that everyone should be treated equitably. And it is a bit pie in the sky, I've got to say. Don't quote me even though I'm getting recorded. But it should be what we aim for. Whether it's achievable or not, I agree with Archie. It's highly unlikely we'll reach 100%, but we should always aspire to it. That's the situation. I think that's roughly what Ronnie was saying as well.
I don't think it's wrong with aspiration. That's absolutely right, but I think we have to be a wee bit realistic. 100% is not realistic. Perhaps
Yeah, I don't think I said we wanted to treat anybody any differently or anything like that. What we're saying is that 85% every year could be different 85% for the year before, as long as they get an annual review at some stage and they get a review of their work and all that. What you're doing then is at least you're getting to a target where we can measure that the organisation is actually hitting those targets as a management committee, if you like.
Okay, right, James, I think we'll put that into your court and see what you come back with. Did you want to?
Just a quick word on the PDRs, and just to reassure members that I oversee the management of the part-time staff, and we achieved our target of everybody who was available for a PDR received a PDR. Sometimes, Chair, they're off on maternity leave, they're off sick, they haven't been with us long enough, so the 100% completed 100% of the number of PDRs that we actually could do.
Actually, it's what we want to hear, really. Good. On the exception report, we've dealt with the elected members inquiry service. The other two that are there are because we've done better, so that would maybe suggest that the target wasn't set at the right place, or that we've just done better, which is absolutely excellent. What would you feel about that, James?
Yep, Chair. Again, they've been reviewed as part of the refresh business plan process, and we'll see them later on. We'll go through that.
(2.1) are to review the overall summary and performance, which we've done, and scrutinise the exception reporting in Appendix 2 and 3, and consider whether actions proposed are adequate to improve performance and future monitoring of areas which have not met the target, and recognise the areas of good practice type of target has been exceeded. I think we've done that particularly with discussion about. Happy with that? Right. Item 7, which is the refresh business plan. I think it was difficult to see which bits were being refreshed. So in order to make that easy for members, I asked that perhaps we had a summary whereby it was highlighted, which I hope this will be. Yeah, good. Which we discussed. We discussed at the last meeting, so it shouldn't come as any surprise. I don't know if there's anything that particularly you want to bring about. I think what is good is it gives us the absolute structures that have gone in, which is very useful, which was what we had and now what we've got. And I think that's very important. And also our projects for the future. But is there anything you want to draw attention to members?
Thank you, Chair. The refresh business plan, as you quite rightly say, this had came before members with proposed areas to be refreshed. We have taken on board all the comments and requests from members from our last committee. They have now been included in the revised business plan 12-2015. So in real terms, Chair, we have taken on board the comments and
Give you a minute to leaf through it. If there's anything you want to pull out and ask, please do. But as I say, we discussed this at our last meeting, so it won't be any surprise. anything you want? What? Councillor Wood?
Yes, there is an actual fact. On page 15, we were talking about promoting equality. A little bit concerned about the statement where it says employees with disabilities are also asked at least once per year whether there's anything to make sure they can develop use of their abilities at work. Now, should that not be an ongoing process rather than ensuring that they get asked once a year? At least once a year, that's great. Well, what I'm saying is that, pardon?
I hope that management is aware of what the problems are and asking when appropriate.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chair. It's something that we would do at least once per year, but it's certainly tying into council operating environments. So that is lifted from.
Can I just ask, procurement is an important part. Have we got somebody appointed yet? Not as the driver?
Yeah, Chair, it's just because of the last report, just to add that into the business plan with regards to page 18, delivering the improvement, which is delivering the change programme, developed departmental work plan. That's got to be added into there with the new dates and that particular thing.
Do we have any other questions on this refreshed, revised? So if we could just go to recommendations, which is to approve the refreshed sections of the business plan and DGFirst. Is that? Yeah. Now that takes us to item 8, which is operational updates, which I've asked to be on the agenda every time because I think it's important that we know some of the things that are going on that just as interested as a management committee. And we've got the Dock Park Improvement Project and Zero Waste Impact on the Waste Collection Service. Is Fraser Marshall here? Fraser, you're here to do both of them, I think? Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you.
That's it now? That's it. Okay. So first one, Dock Park, bit of background on it. Total project cost is just over £2 million, of which 49% grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund was issued to us on the 5th of July last year. RJ McLeod were appointed through a tender process as the main contractor, and the work started on site on the 20th of May. Oh, sorry. There we go, sorry. That's it. Sorry. Wonderful. So, yeah, right. The timelines, work started on 20th of May, as I say, with a sod cutting ceremony on the 21st of May, and the official opening we're aiming for Easter next year. We're on schedule for that. The physical works, the main works that we're looking at are improvement to the entrance, improvements to the external cafe area, so there's a seating area for everybody to sit at. There'll be a new play area with all brand new play equipment, restoration of the bandstand, improvements to the pavilion at the bowling green. There'll be a new mini golf facility and creation of a viewpoint area where the old Kelly shelter was. There will also be improvements to the management and maintenance. Part of the bid, the Heritage Lottery Fund were very keen that we have a management, or it was a condition of the grant that we have a management plan in place. Currently, there are many different departments have an input into the management, which ends up in a very disjointed approach. Nobody really knows who's responsible for what. All the management will now come under the remit of ourselves at DGFirst. One of the grant conditions is also to achieve green flag status. At the moment, there are no parks in Dumfries and Galloway that have the green flag status. We will achieve that in due course. Visitor counters have been installed as well. We now know how many people are going into the park before the improvements. We'll also know how many will be in the park after improvements. But we also know when the people are going into the park, so we can adjust management accordingly. That's a basic overview of the park itself. As I say, the main improvements at the entrance, the car park. The park will actually start as you come off the road now. The toilet block will be demolished and removed. There'll be a welcoming entrance into the park. Moving further down, there'll be a hard standing area around the cafe to sit at. You've then got a new play area with new play equipment. The blue in there isn't a pond, it's a blue safety surfacing of the play equipment. There's then a small events area beyond that. The pavilion, as I say, will be, the bandstand will be restored as well. The putting and the bowling will remain, and then a new mini golf area beyond that, and then a large events area. As I say, we're on schedule to be open Easter. I'd welcome any questions on the park.
Can I just ask about the green flag status?
Yes.
What do you need to have that, and why have we not got any other parks?
There are various criteria. They have to be, I can't remember what they all are, but they have to be welcoming, they have to be managed, they have to be staffed. So there are various criteria. Probably none of the parks actually, although the parks at the moment, this will. And it's judged.
Thanks, Chair. The, obviously, with the works that's been involved, is the park going to be shut off completely, or is just public access going to be restricted at certain times or certain areas of the developments going ahead?
There will always be access to the park. There will always be access through the park while the works are going on. That's one of the conditions of the contract. Yes, there will be areas that are shut off at the moment. It's round about the cafe and the play area. The construction works going on there. They have to shut that off while it's going on. There will be disruption. It's inevitable. But there will always be access to it.
Yeah.
You spoke about the park being manned or staffed. Can you tell me what the staffing arrangements might be?
Yep. We currently have a park development officer in post at the moment. She will be based in the park as well once the facilities are ready for her. Also part of the bid is to employ a park keeper within the park, and that will be a permanent post. There will be one park keeper in there on a permanent basis. There will also be, previously Leisure and Sport would employ people to sell tickets, etc. That budget is going to transfer over to us, and we will do that as well. And we want to get an apprentice. We have apprentices at the moment. Part of the apprenticeship will make sure the park as well, so a learning experience for them as well.
Are you having a office garden
For
shed or
me personally?
No, for your park
yes,
manager
sorry.
and your, you if you need it. But yeah.
Being flippant. Within the pavilion at the bowling green, there will be a pavilion.
Will there be CCTV coverage
Yes,
to protect it?
there are 4 cameras going in, one on the Trappier side that will get an overview of the whole park and the bridge as well.
Just carrying on with the CCTV, I asked about the CCTV. Will these be connected directly to the police?
Yes.
At the police station, like?
Yes, they'll be monitored at Roadburn.
Because that's one of the main problems with the park now is the lack of antisocial behaviour and that takes place in the park. That's good to hear it'll be connected.
You mentioned again that you're demolishing the existing toilet block that's there. What kind of provision are you making for facilities?
There will be new toilet facilities within the pavilion at the bowling green. That will be the main hub of the park. There will be toilet provisions in there.
Thanks. I've had a couple of people ask me why we not put in some temporary toilets in the short term. Is there any chance that can happen, Fraser, particularly in the summertime?
We are looking at that at the moment. We've actually got figures costed up for the provision of that, and we're going to discuss it with our funding partners as well to see if we can do that. Because you're right, we have had a few queries raised about that. But there are toilets at Castle Dykes as well.
With regards to enforcement officers, do we have good coverage of that on the initial startup? Because dog fouling seems to be one of the greatest pestilences throughout the whole of our region.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really interesting. Can I just ask about the contractors?
RJ McLeod, they're based it's either Edinburgh or Glasgow. I think they have offices in both.
But are they DGFirst just managing them, or are they using DGFirst? They do it all themselves?
Yeah, they do it all.
You just oversee it? Yeah. Well, I think that's really interesting. Councillor Dickham?
Just on the contract, are there any completion penalties if they're late?
Good question. I'm not 100% sure is the simple answer on that one. But we're well on target. Confident ahead of target.
Well, we'll remember. Remember, it's recorded. Might hold you to that one, Fraser. Good. Well, I think that's been an interesting update on that, and good to know that things are moving along, and we'll look forward to Easter next year. Thank you very much. Now, your next one is on zero waste, slightly more complicated, I suspect.
Yep. So the next one is zero waste. This is a picture that was taken in Wales, which is an authority we visited, which has a similar setup to what we are proposing, and we will end up seeing something along this lines in Dumfries and Galloway. Yeah. So a bit of the background: waste regulations were passed by Waste Scotland regulations were passed by the Scottish Parliament on the 9th of May 2012. Key points of that were that local authorities were to provide a basic recycling service to all households by the 1st of January 2014. Local authorities to offer a food waste recycling service to non-rural areas by the 1st of January 2016, and a ban on material collected from recycling going to landfill or incineration. It was agreed at the Planning, Housing and Environment Service Committee on the 13th of November 2012 to implement a managed collection system of weekly food waste and an alternate weekly collection of source separate dry recyclates, that's glass, metals, paper, card and plastics, and unsorted waste to every property in Dumfries and Galloway. So timelines, route planning, we are currently doing that at the moment. We've had an overview, sort of global route planning, and we've now put it through our system that we've used previously for our route planning, and we're trying to match the two up. Communications is obviously going to be a vital part of this, and our colleagues in P&E have a communication strategy that they're taking forward. I think they've written to all the community councils, or they're certainly in the process of doing that as we speak. September, the communications will go a big way. There'll be public meetings, public displays, etc. That's happening through our colleagues in P&E. Purchase of bins and vehicles. The bins have been purchased. That was part of the funding bid that the P&E had, and they purchased the bins, and they purchased some of the vehicles as well. And I'll show you a picture of some of the vehicles we have. Appointment of staff, project manager. It's obviously a big project, this, and there's funding for a project manager, and we're in the process of appointing a project manager as we speak. We've been through the interview process of that. There will be 3 technicians, the adverts for which will be out just shortly. There will be some temporary communication staff, which P&E, colleagues in P&E will be taking forward. And then the loaders and the drivers, people that are actually going to do the work here, recruitment for that will start probably in September. The infrastructure, obviously when we collect all these recyclists, we have to have somewhere to put them and somewhere to handle them. So there's a zero waste park in Sederunt being developed, a zero waste park in Dumfries being developed, an extension to transfer stations at Annan and at Castle Douglas, and a new household recycling centre at Newton Stewart. This is one of the vehicles. This was up at a trade show up in Aviemore earlier on this year. That was ready to be delivered to us now. It's one of the curbside collectors. Again, I would welcome any questions.
Can I just ask about the routes? This is going to be rolled out. I think we're starting in Wigtonshire?
Yes, it's a rolling programme. Wigton is January. Stewartry is August next year, I think it is. January the following, 2015.
So with regards to the routes, are you doing Wigtonshire as a oneer, or do you look at the urban routes first?
No.
I mean, with regards buses and schools and traffic.
It will be done as a oneer.
Well, we know how easy it was doing this.
There are many challenges ahead of us.
I think that's putting it mildly. I'm sure there's more questions. Right, Councillor Peacock.
Thanks, Chair. Just regarding the vehicles, James, I mean, I know photographs can be deceptive, but it looks quite a large vehicle compared with the ones that we have in use at the moment. I mean, what's the sort of size comparisons? And I'm just thinking about going into more intricate places that the vehicles that you have at the moment have to cope with.
That is a larger vehicle. I can't remember the difference in size, but it is larger. We have had that on trial around some of our routes, and yes, there are some areas having difficulty with that. We are looking at the moment at alternative vehicles as well, and we're discussing that with our colleagues. There are other issues as well that we're looking at as well that are coming up. Farm road ends. Is there a better vehicle for farm road ends? Commercial customers as well. Is there a better vehicle for customers? We're looking at these issues and discussing them with our partners.
Members, if I can just say that vehicle there, to put it in context, is a 12.5-ton chassis type vehicle with a payload of about 4.5 tons. That's what looks bigger there. It looks a lot bigger than an RCV in that picture, but it's, yes, it's a big vehicle the way it operates, pods and section top car going in, but that overall weight-wise is a relatively small weight vehicle. It just looks a lot larger.
What is our weight that we have on a regular rubbish?
They're based on 26-ton chassis, so they're carrying 10 ton, 11 tons capacity.
So these are going to carry half the amount.
It's bulky. A lot of cardboard. Bulky.
Again, Chair, if I may, this is part of the elements of the recycling. There still is the RCVs going around the routes doing the normal bin every 2 weeks. Food waste, plastic. So, you say it's a smaller capacity. That's this type of RCV existing.
Thanks, Chair. It's just, as I say, the amount of bins you're going to be having, I think it's going to be up to 5, 2 small ones and 3 larger ones. The position is, if you stay in a flat, what's the position regarding them like, as I say, because there's not really a lot of storage place to put the likes of 3 outside bins in a flat. And just the other question is, we're in a PPP contract with Shanksy now. That's going to be less. How are we getting on with renegotiating that contract with Shanks?
First point, the flats, we are looking at that at the moment, whether we have a communal bin rather than have every flat having 5 small bins. It's totally impractical. Whether we have a larger bin and a vehicle that can cope with that, that's what we're looking at the moment. Same with the rural road end issues. It's the same issue. We're looking at that at the moment to address that.
Back on that one just before you get the other one. In a flat, like you've got a communal bin, will that just know, some of them in the flat, will that just know, encourage people to just throw anything into the one bin when they come down? Have they got it segregated?
Yeah, but I'm talking about having separate bins. Yeah, yeah, it needs to be managed. Yes, there are challenges there. We're looking at them at the moment to address them. We're also talking with other authorities, see how they deal with it as well. Your second point regarding the Shanks contract, it's a P&E issue. Have that. I can wash my hands of that one.
Thank you, Chair. Some of my question was actually just the same as Councillor Martin's there. Just to clarify this, is that got the same on the other side of the vehicle, so there's men working at both sides?
Yes.
Yeah. And that will be once a fortnight, you'll have 5 bins going out to that, and the alternative week you just get your one multi-waste bin, is that correct?
Yep, you'll have a weekly collection of food waste, which will be collected by effectively a smaller version of an RCV. Just a normal bin lorry at the moment, a smaller version. That will collect your food waste on a weekly basis, and that's a small bin that your householder will put out. Your dry recyclers, which is your glass, paper, cardboard, etc., it will go out on a fortnightly basis and be collected by this vehicle. In addition, your residual 240 bin that you currently have will also be collected on a fortnightly basis as well.
Right, thanks for that. My second part was, is there going to be penalties for people who don't adhere to this?
No. That will be education to start with, but there is no plans to penalise anybody for not doing it.
I think to reiterate that this is not a compulsory system. It's voluntary. People can do it as and how they like, and if they don't want to do it, they can stick with the wheelie bin as they've got at the moment. But that will only be picked up.
That's absolutely correct.
I have got driver.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, obviously, some of the process you say there was looking at drivers and loaders, and you're going through the interview, the selection process or whatever at the moment. How many more drivers and loaders are we talking about here? Because obviously that's going to have a cost effect and an annual cost effect on council.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the region of about 36 additional jobs.
But presumably, with that, the budget will come built into the cost and will come from PhD.
It's a commission service and it's all built in.
I bet it doesn't come from the Scottish Government, though.
So part of my question has been answered by Councillor Ibra's question. So I understand that there are 36 additional jobs just now. There's also a requirement for additional vehicles. Can you give me some indication of the cost of these?
Yeah, I mean, these vehicles here that you're looking at, they're in excess of £100,000. I can't remember the exact figure of it. I think we're looking at somewhere between 10 and 15 that we're going to need. We're still working on the route modelling at the moment, and that will determine exactly how many we need.
Thanks. Sorry, we finished, Ted. Just a couple of things. Fraser, this is a massive education programme, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, this is primarily about. I know personally, my mother still lives in the Scottish borders, and they've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
They have second habit to them. They just wash their empty cans, they wash their empty plastic bottles. What we got to do when we start getting half-full cans, right, in the aluminium waste, right, we've rotten food in them, and the health hazards and that's got to create all over the place. So whether it's you or PHNES together, how are we going to sell this and ask the public to actually to embrace the whole process? That's the first half of the question, and the second half is that I'm picking up from John. I think it was John said earlier about space in houses, with boxes and that. You know, are we having only a plan A, or is there a plan B with coloured plastic bags?
I think your first point, it's going to be a massive education programme here. We're going from, I mean, let's be frank, we're going from a very simple, one of the simplest systems that we can possibly have, one bin once a week. It's about as easy as it gets to what is potentially quite a complicated system. That has to be sold to the public. And there is a communication strategy which our colleagues in P&E are taking forward at the moment. Yes, there will be many challenges, and there will be many, it will be a shock for a lot of people. You know, they'll not be sure what day the bin goes out. And yeah, we'll have to manage that and take that forward. As regards a plan B, as I say, we are discussing options at the moment. Platted properties in particular, and farm road ends cause us challenges. We need to look at options for them. Yes, we are looking at different things.
Chair, when this first comes in, there will be a lot of confusion, will be a lot of hiccups, there will be a lot of people who put the wrong things in the wrong boxes at times. And the whole process of having a robust communication strategy, working with people to ensure that they have the correct knowledge, what we're doing, why we're doing it, has to be key to making this work. The communication strategy, once that starts, hopefully we will start getting the questions back from the people. We're not just saying this out going, we're looking for them to ask and speak to us and say, what if I do this, you know, taking the point, what if I've got half a can of beans here, what do I do with it? But does that go in there and then the can goes in there? Should I wash? All that will be built into the process of the right thing.
Thank you, Chair. As I understand it, the main motivator for this system is for environmental reasons and for the green effect, as it were. And given that for the proportion of waste that these vehicles are going to collect, and they take half the amount that we're currently taking in existing vehicles, then presumably the number of collection miles, as I might put it, is going to double, which is going to use an awful lot more fuel for these wagons and all the other associated costs. What is the actual net effect of sort of being green in this, and has anything been done on this? I mean, I think we're going to be doing an awful lot more miles on the road to collect the same amount of waste.
Chair, if I can, I think that's all part of the modelling process just now, and it's quite difficult to get the comprehension. Picking on your point there about these vehicles less than some of the existing vehicles. Well, yes, but that's part of they're taking part out of the other vehicles. So there is a complicated model to understand what the savings are and what the uptake is going to be, because as I say, this is a non-enforcement process. We may find that the uptake may be limited to start with until this build and people get used to it. And friends across Scotland who operate this, when they first, their homes, when they had this, they were reluctant to use it, put all the stuff into the bin, but over a gradual period, move that round to being very proactive into using these bins as a second process. So the modelling that has been done is making some very bold assumptions, but that will be a part of the learning process. It goes forward, and there may well be modifications, changing to routes based around some of the runs. So we're a bit learning as we go with it, but the process is hopefully universally used to maximise the gain and
It's just a quick follow-up on the question that Councillor Thompson said there, like the purchase of the vehicles, said something like £100,000. Are we actually purchasing these vehicles, or are we leasing them? And what's the lifespan of these vehicles?
They're being purchased. Our colleagues in P&E have got the funding for that from Zero Waste Scotland, so it's a capital purchase.
Thanks, Chair. Once the curb recycling starts and the programme gets into force, is it the intention to take away the smaller recycling bins that are placed in the communities around the area? I mean, I appreciate we've got the recycling centres at Annan, Castle Douglas, Newton Stewart, but in many of the small communities at the moment, there are, you know, the different colour glass bottles, the clothes, the tin cans. Is it expected that they will be taken away?
I'm not sure on that one. That's again, it's commissioned by P&E that deal with that side of life. We would hope that there wouldn't be a need for it because it's been done at your curbside. So, yeah, that will be looked at.
Chair, and that'll be part of the process as this develops. Through there may be a lesser need for these things to be. So it's not something that's going to have to start.
Can I just ask, well, just get that with the, you know, if you've got bottles, for instance, they'll be in a box or and the staff will have to either physically take every bottle out and throw them in, or do they lift them up and tip them?
Yep. There's a, maybe you can't see it, there's a rack you actually hang your bin onto it, can tip it.
So it's quite a lot of physical.
It's far more manual. Yes.
Well, which actually is backwards. And so we need to make sure that the staff are, I mean, I think as a management committee, we've got to really be concerned about how the staff deal with it.
Yes.
And that everything that possible. And I just wonder if PH&E have done any work on looking at other councils, other communities that have done it, and if, you know, if they've done the sort of valuation of urban and rural uptake, how it works, whether we do perhaps need more recycling areas in our villages, and that perhaps maybe that's the best way of doing it rather than doing it all on the, you know, curbside. And the hints in the name, you know, actually it's an urban policy for, and we've got a lot of rural areas here which do not have curbs. And that, I mean, I think it would work fine if we were doing it. It would work fine. It would work easier if we were just restricting it to the towns and the villages. I think the problems are all in the rural, and also the anomalies with flats and closes and things for people. And I just wonder if we've had anything from PH&E that they've done a bit of research on this.
Yeah, they've certainly looked at other authorities. I know they've looked at similar authority in Wales, plus Stirling as well. They're modelling it on about 70% uptake. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. We don't know what the uptake will be. Try it. The hard facts.
Do we have enough vehicles if we're doing, I mean, it sounds like quite a lot of duplication to begin with. Do we have enough vehicles to pick up? People expect their waste to be picked up on a regular basis.
Yeah, Chair, I think it's fair to say the model, the number of vehicles will be based around that 70% model. Have enough vehicles to do that. If it was 100%, supplementing that. Again, it's one of the challenges in this whole process. You model for 100% and have vehicles sitting idle, or you model with not enough and vehicles having to double back and do different things. The advice taken from other authorities, Powys, Stirlingshire, is to go for that sort of three-quarter middle ground. Hopefully have the correct number to keep for the initial year. And it's the same with the point about minor dexterity process. Fraser and myself have met workforce representatives. That's an ongoing process. Yeah, we're taking some real concern. This is going to be a very, very labour-intensive process. So we're trying to build everything into these processes to minimise that.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if we've got actually a market for all these different recyclates. Because over the years, you hear from time to time that nobody wants to buy all the cardboard that's been lying in recycling centres and actually ends up going to landfill. What work has been done in that area?
Sorry, Chair. That again very much sits within me and obviously we are very much the deliverer of this service for commissioners to
Thanks, Ronnie. I take your point. You're the delivery arm of this whole process. Just your sort of personal experience, we've just had visitors from British Columbia who actually live about 200 miles from the nearest recycling centre. So our remote areas are not remote, and they assiduously split up their waste, do it the right way because they've been doing it for years. Again, if my 87-year-old mother can do it, we can do it. So it's a case we need to get this moving forward. They were absolutely amazed that we were putting aluminium cans in the bin, because in British Columbia, you actually put a deposit on your glass, your aluminium, your plastic, and when you go back to the supermarket, they're required to recycle it for you and either give you a chip as credit, and you use that when you go into the supermarket to then buy more cans of Coke or whatever it is. Now, I appreciate that's way beyond the remit here, but I think the question is, maybe PH&ES need to be looking at this education programme. Let's start with the kids, because the kids will be the conscience of the parents and vice versa. And trying at the big supermarkets in particular on side here and get them to work with us. Or else we're just not going to do this, and we need to do something about it. And the last thing was about the income generation. I'm not sure what you said there. So we're going to separate all this out for Shanks, and then Shanks are going to get the income from the aluminium. Is that right? We'll get the...
Thank you, Chair. I'm just concerned about some of the practicalities of these bins sitting on the curbside. Some of them do have lids and some of them don't, from memory. Am I right in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got your open ones sitting on the curbside and it chucks it down with rain. So you've got a couple of inches of water in the bottom of your thing. How's that going to be?
There are drainage holes in the bottom.
Sorry?
There are drainage holes in the bottom of the...
Okay, right. And the other concern is for both open and closed ones. If you get 2 or 3 inches of snow overnight, it's not going to be much fun lifting those about the place. And then the other concern I have is once these bins are empty, them being blown about and one thing and another, I just wonder whether you could address those last 2 points.
Yeah. I mean, if there's 2 or 3 inches of snow, then it may not be that we can get the vehicles out there anyway. So it may be a separate issue there. But regarding the bins when they're empty, they will be stacked and put back where they are. We will have to monitor it and keep an eye on it. Yes, that's a fair point.
Again, Chair, with the process of looking at Powys and Stirling, taking on board their advice, how they've done it. We're not plagiarising their system, but we certainly challenges and difficulties. Very valid point, exactly what they came forward and said. Crews have had issues but there's ways and means that ourselves delivering the service to the residents. The issue of the boxes, we've taken on board the size boxes, the weights of boxes, avoid street and Dumfries when the wind blowing we've learned from others. They've been through this before us. They've fixed it.
Yeah, I think we've already noted that there's going to be a lot more sort of manual handling. And, while that affects the staff who actually collect it, it also affects the householder. So can you give me some idea of the capacity of some of these bins and the approximate weights that they're meant to carry? Because I'd be concerned for some householders, their ability to actually get that curbside.
Yep. I can't remember. I think they're 50 litres is the biggest container that we have. I'm not sure what the capacity is to carry the weights. But I mean, it's obviously down to the householder to put enough in that they can manage themselves. There won't be any more waste generated. It's just separating the current waste that we collect. I don't know if that helps you or not.
If we can just come back on it, if I can recall the collection system that we previously had for paper waste. You know, we had what I would consider extremely fragile bins, which if you did actually load it up with paper and you took it out, you know, the handle came off. And they were extremely heavy, you know, I mean, I get quite a few newspapers myself, and I'm quite sure a lot of other householders do. And when you weigh up that, you know, it is actually quite difficult to transport.
Chair, I think, again, very valid point. It depends what goes into the box. But I think, again, we all went through the process with blue boxes, paper. You're quite right, some of them were initially fragile, handles came off. But again, working with other authorities through this process, supply, purchase from suppliers, proven track record, these things are suitable and appropriate purpose. So again, to ensure it.
With regards to communication that goes out to, well, I mean, I know you're going to send it out to community councils, but let's face it, a lot more people community councils. So I don't know if you're going to use broadcast or something which goes into but does that come from DGFirst or does that come from PhD?
PhD are leading on that one.
Well, can I ask that since DGFirst are going to have to deliver this, they're going to be the ones that get questions, they're going to be the ones that get the flack when somebody's bin's not picked up on the right day or whatever, that perhaps there is somebody in there from DGFirst to deal with the practical, everyday, on-the-road type questions that people will want to know about, because quite often I think the commissioner might think they're just answering all the questions, but actually dealing with the practicalities of it. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely. There is a working group set up at the moment and we are involved in that. Yes.
Actually, on that point as well, you're saying there's going to be a lot of education and information coming forward. Take it as a committee, we will get to see that first before it goes out.
It's being taken forward by B&E.
I just have a problem. I understand it's taken forward by PhD, but actually it's DGFirst that got to deliver, and they're going to be the ones that have to answer the questions, take the flak, deal with the problems, cope with the variants that happen, and it's not PhD that are going to do that. And you know, I think we just have to be ready for that. Yeah.
Chair, if I can, I agree. I think we're all in this together. P&E, working with colleagues in communication, our own community staff, down to the local staff in the office. They all need to be aware of what the how it's going to work. You're correct. It tends to be planes fired towards them. So I'm sure our colleagues in P&E would not have an issue sharing of information across all parties to what is going to be going first.
Yeah, just through you, Chair. Fraser, the implementation date when we're starting to move to this is later this year, isn't it?
No. In Wigton, it will be January next year. Stewartry, it will be, I can't remember, it's the summer, August 2014. Annandale and Eskdale, January 2015, and Nistdale, May 2015.
Okay, that explains it. I've just moved to having the big multi-bin at the front door to white bags, and I wonder if I get a full year's supply, but that probably explains it. Just building on what you said, Chair, it's the bin man who's going to get the flak. It's the bin man who's going to be integral in this working. The greatest respect to the suits at Carrigan Bridge or in PHDS. Right? They associate with the person who comes to their door. And if that person isn't an ambassador for the system, we've got a problem. And I know there'll be a training programme and everything else, but I think it really needs to be emphasised that we don't want any barriers to change here. Right? This is coming, this is happening. And let's, I would actually suggest the education programme should be for the councillors as well, because a lot of the questions you've been asked today have actually been barriers to change. Right? We can't do it because, in actual fact, we should be looking at how do we do it, and this is how we're going to help you do it.
Sorry, just one other concern from a practical point of view that I would like to address is, with these smaller boxes and one thing or another, what consideration is being given for vermin such as foxes and badgers and stray dogs and one thing or another? Because with the wheelie bins, they can't shift those. But with these smaller boxes, a badger or a fox will turn one of those things over in a second.
We're still looking, as I've said, rural farm road end properties, etc. Do we look at a bigger bin, a sort of communal bin? We're looking at that at the moment, and that may have an impact on the vehicles as well that we're looking at. So that's still being looked at. Yeah.
It's the human bin rakers, Chair. The quickest way to get rid of waste where I live is actually lay it in your front wall. It disappears overnight.
Right, well, I think we've had a really good discussion about this. We've had a lot of questions. I think we should be sure that actually we need to keep something coming forward so that we can keep abreast of what's happening. And I just wonder, Fraser, how often you, or members, how often you think we should have an update like this regards the implementation of the waste strategy, whether we need one at every meeting or whether we have one in every other meeting? Because I do think it's really important that we understand what's happening. We don't want to interfere, but we need to understand what's happening, how it's going about, and where the problems are, and where the easy bits are as well, and how we roll it out. That's part of our role. So, I'm in your hands, actually.
No, just thinking, the October meeting, that gives us nearly 3 or 4 months before we get more information, and then it would be maybe if it comes in Wigtonshire in January, maybe we report in your January or February meeting how it's actually going in that area before it comes into the other ones, because there are about to be problems that they're going to be able to sort out before it starts in other areas.
I am also quite, I do think we really do need to see the communications that's going out, because I think we have to look at that from a practical point of view for the operators doing it, roadmen and everything else. Councillor Wiper?
Yeah, Chair, thank you. I think we should have a brief report, at least every meeting. I'd like to know what the decision is and what's been taken forward with the rural type and the part collections, because it is getting quite near to this thing actually starting. So, what kind of lorries we're going to have to need. I would have thought that really needs to be decided fairly soon, So I would quite like to see something coming back and all.
No, the other thing we haven't discussed at all is businesses. What happens? So we'll say that another time, Fraser. Yeah. So I think maybe an update at every meeting, Fraser. Okay. Not a report, just an update like we've had today, where we can ask questions and see what's going forward.